Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. I am so excited that I get to speak with our next guest. So before I have you introduce yourself, I wanted to ask how you're doing.
I am doing great. It is. I'm in Florida and the sun is shining and it's just like a beautiful day. So I'm happy about that. No cold weather.
Okay, all right, Florida. It's cold here, a little bit chilly in California, but I'm a Californian, so we're very dramatic about that. Will you please introduce yourself to the village?
Okay, my name is Ashley Smith. In the entertainment world, I go by Ashley Autumn. Plenty of other names, so whatever you call me is kind of how I know where you know me from. But I typically just go by Ashley Autumn to keep it simple.
Okay.
And I am the founder and CEO of Talented Tenth Entertainment, which is a record label and production company, and we do a lot of things in house. So,
Beautiful. Thank you. And so, Ashley Autumn, Ashley Smith, I always like to ask my guests about the story behind their names because I believe that names just show so much power within us. What is the story behind your name? It could be your government name
yeah.
or your entertainment name.
Okay. Well, they're both kind of mashed together. So, my mom named me Ashley from the lady off of the Younger and the Restless.
I know exactly who Ashley is.
Ashley Abbott is her name,
Yes.
and she said she just thought she was the prettiest lady, and so that's how Ashley was born. And then I'm not really sure about Autumn, but that is my middle name. And the only reason why I started going by that is because on social media, Ashley Smith is a very common name. And so, like, I grew up in the early Facebook days. So you
Mm,
look for Ashley Smith, and it's like you get lost in the sea of just like common first name, common last name. So I was like, you know
mhm.
what? If I do Ashley Autumn, then that's my name, and
Yes.
then people will be able to find me a lot easier. And then as I started doing things in entertainment, people just started saying Ashley Autumn or just Autumn when there's other Ashleys around,
Hmm.
and we just ran with it. That's so that's how that
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah. And my mom and grandmother were faithful YNR watchers. My mom to this day is, and it's funny because I can like around the house if it's on because I left the TV on, I can come back and know what the storyline is because I've been watching it all my life, basically.
Okay.
So I know exactly who Ashley Abbott is.
Might not watch it anymore, but it's funny. We just had that conversation the other day, and somebody said they called me Ashley Autumn, and they were like, "Where does the autumn come from?" And we ended up having the Young and the Restless story. So,
Okay. Well, what book are you currently reading? If you're reading a book.
so I'm actually reading two books. I'm reading Jada's biography, autobiography.
Okay.
Um, I like to know people's stories from like their basically their mouth. So whatever the media says, but it's like let me read it because I know how the entertainment industry does and blow things out of proportion. And the
Yeah.
second book I'm reading is Healing Through Music. There's like
Mm.
subtext there, but I don't remember the subtext, but it's Healing Through Music.
Oh, okay. I keep a I keep a book list and I put the books in the show's notes so that people, if they hear you on here and say, "Oh, I'm reading this," then they can kind of go to that. So thank you for sharing that. What is a song by a woman lyricist that empowers you, or in my mind, sets you ablaze?
Okay, so there are two.
Okay.
The first one is Rihanna. She better have my money. Um, anytime that song comes on, I feel like I can conquer the world, and it whatever belongs to me, you better have it. It just makes me feel like the biggest boss. And the other is Beyonce Flawless. So both of those songs, I just always feel like I step into this inner boss. You know, let me conquer the day. Nobody can tell me anything. Let's go.
Yeah. 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 Those are good picks. Mine is UNITY by Queen Latifah. There's so many, but that
Mhm.
one is like one of those, like when she's talking about punching people dead in the eye for calling her a bitch. I'm just like, you know what, ma'am, let's do it. And then this is gonna be so, but everybody has something. Nann by Trina, her verse on her and Trick Daddy's song
Yes.
is my, like, that exemplifies empowerment to
Yeah.
me, especially during a time when what we're going to talk about, black women being objectified in hip hop. So yeah, okay, let's get started.
Okay.
Let's get started. I have you for a little bit of time, and I know I'm going to bring you back. I just know it. I feel it in my bones. So I wanted you to come by because, like many of us, I love hip hop. I talk about hip hop on the show. I'm always asking questions about it. But hip hop has always been something that I specifically turn to. Good days, bad days, in between, silly days, all that stuff. It's been an influence, it's been a soundtrack for many of us. I am curious about what hip hop is to you.
Um, to me, hip hop is we are hip hop. Like
Mm,
all of the identity that we have lost, it has come back full circle, and it is now hip hop. You do not
mm,
have hip hop without R&B. You do not have our hip hop without the dance, without jazz, without funk, without gospel, without the drums, and it's all rooted back into like our ancestors are there.
mm,
And even just when you think of the term hip hop, it almost sounds like an African phrase. Like if we were a tribe, we would be the hip hop tribe, because it has all just like come together. So it's the melting pot of who we are, the diaspora, because you have those Jamaican roots in there.
mm,
So to me, that's what hip hop is. It's not just the music as we
mm,
see, or just like the clothing, but it's just this wide range of like who we are as a people.
mm. I love that. Thank you. And I mean, I would love to talk about the elephant in many hip hop circles, which is the misogyny, or as I've been saying a lot more when it deals with Black women, the misogynoir of how music and hip hop is intertwined. Um, do you think that women's voices have been celebrated in hip hop?
Um, I think we try.
Uh,
I think we try. I don't think it is as celebrated as it could be. Like just you talking about Queen Latifah, like when we think about the impact she's had in hip hop, her connection to people like Tupac and these things, like we kind of skim past those. And a lot of times it's like, oh
mm,
yeah, Queen Latifah did this, but we don't give her the credit. Like, and even when we talk about rappers turn actors, we'll say Will Smith or LL or Method Man, but Queen Latifah's been going crazy,
mhm,
and for a very long time. So I think there are these good intentions sometimes,
yeah.
maybe some exploitive intentions to celebrate women in hip hop, but I definitely think we could do a better job of doing it in a way that is like just like we did the hip hop 50th year. Like there's a way to celebrate women in that same way.
Right, right, absolutely. And as much as I love hip hop, there's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot we would expect growth from that person. And we would give the side eye if this person was still behaving as an adolescent. Um, do you see hip hop evolving? And if not, how do you think it can evolve?
I do see it evolving, but everything evolves, whether it be good or bad, and sometimes things kind of have to go bad before they can bounce back and be good. Um, and I think hip hop is a reflection of who we are and where we are as a people. So we have a lot of healing to do, and I think where we see hip hop now is those unhealed wounds. starting to be reflected. Where,
Mm.
in the 90s, I
Hmm.
know Nelly just said like that 99 to 2010 was like peak hip hop. When you think about it, a lot of those guys were kids themselves. They were 17, 18, 19, 20. And I know when I look at 17, 18, 19, 20, I was not as smart as I thought I was. Like, I wasn't like a dummy, but like, I'd be like, girl, what was you? Come on. So it's like I give grace in that area where it's like you take these poor kids
Yeah.
from a community and you give them millions of dollars, but you don't give them any psychological help. You don't give them any like financial literacy. They're all just figuring out this new life.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're going to just start mimicking what they see other people. And unfortunately, in the music industry, there's the mimicking of these rich white executives who do things that I wouldn't consider to be a part of our culture.
Yeah.
Um, but they didn't have father figures. So, of course, this is what you're going to mimic and who you're going to take advice from. You have a male role model that's displaying all of the things that you want,
Hmm.
or that you think you want, or you don't even know because you didn't have it there in the first
Hmm.
place. And so I see that part of it. I see it as a unhealed trauma wound. And
Yeah.
because we as Black women have our own unhealed trauma wounds, we came alongside that and we helped. And honestly, we needed some gangster ish in the industry to turn some tables and be like, nah, give us our masters back. But
Hmm.
now we have to work through we have the money. Now we have
Yeah.
to do the healing.
Oh, yes. I absolutely agree. Do you find it to be something that could be like where people like Nelly, people like Method Man, people like, you know, I don't even know, Father MC, all of these people, Big Daddy Kane, all these people that have gone through the infancy of hip hop, and they had to do what they needed to do to get their place in hip hop. Do you think that it could be beneficial that these folks serve as mentors, or do you see them serving as mentors to this younger generation of hip hop?
I just think it depends on where they are in their own healing process. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I think we call everybody unc and auntie and cuz and everything, but when we take them off of these pedestals and we see them as unc and auntie and cuz, I don't even want all my cousins and uncles and aunties to be mentors. And that's no knock to them.
Yeah.
They have to
Yeah.
do their own healing. So it's like you have to be at a place to be able to mentor in order to do it. And I think we think sometimes that because a person has money, they're automatically fit
Yes.
to help the community, or we want them to save the community. And it's like, they've never been to therapy. It goes back to what I said. Like, they
Yep.
get money at 17. Well, some of them is just arrested development. They hit that peak. And we see it
Hmm.
all the time. People peak in high school. There are people who won't let high school go. They are
Yeah.
75 years old, and high school was that was their
Yeah.
peak.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we expecting people who have more money to be any different? They are It just looks better in the Ferrari. Dysfunction looks better in the Ferrari. And
Absolutely.
that's to me, that's all it is. It just looks better in the
Absolutely.
Ferrari.
Absolutely. Thank you. Um, in hip hop, we have seen that Black women have been unfortunately props, right? The ride or die chick, that sort of thing. We have seen these artists like Salt and Peppa, MC Light, Roxanne Shante. I've said Queen Latifah. You said Queen Latifah, who are very foundational to hip hop. But in the same breath, there's been this objectification and shame of Black women. As a producer, as an artist that you are, how do you fight back against that?
For me, it's about the storytelling. So as a producer, because you do have the control, you can say
Mm.
like, don't put that on. Like, or you can say like, maybe it should look like you have the power to speak in things, into things. And I think that's where a lot of people maybe like, I like production because of the control you have to tell your story and to control the narrative. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, when they go into the industry, they think of production from like, I'm just the producer who makes the beat, which technically that's the composer when you structure it industry wise. The producer is the person bringing everybody into the room. They're speaking into it. They may never play on a song, you know, they may never rap on the song, but they're influencing that. Then you have executive producers who are all about the marketing. And I do both parts, but from the executive part, it's okay, we're shooting a music video. I want people to cast people who look like me, that look like my cousins, that look my sisters, my uncles, my brothers. And then you shoot that video and black people now see themselves reflected.
Yeah.
Where in the industry there where there's a shortage of executive producers and producers of that look like us,
Yeah.
whether it be male or female, and then that goes back into their trauma. What story are you telling? And why are you telling it? And then
Mhm.
the executive producer comes in and they don't look like us. Well, now they're funding the story of our community, and they can say, well, I don't like it like that, do it
Mm.
like this. I
Mhm.
don't like this to see black love on the screen. So make it like, oh, I'll sell your dysfunction all day long. And then they justify it by numbers. But it's like, nah, if you tell a great black love story, black people gonna watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think it's for me to answer your question, it's just using that power to
Yeah.
speak into those situations and say no, like I want
Yeah.
cookout music that my granny can listen to, that my mama can listen to, that my brother can listen to, instead of selling out for the money and saying like, yeah, well, if you take all your clothes off, we can get this bag tomorrow. You know, it'll take a little longer with your clothes on because that's just the society that
Yeah.
we live in. But your dignity will be intact. And if you
Mm.
want to take your clothes off, that's between you and God. But there's nobody forcing you to do it. You don't have to do it.
Mhm.
And when you have to do it, it becomes a pimping. When you do it because you want to, I think that's where the art is. And most people, if they had the choice, or if they knew they had that choice, they wouldn't do it.
Mhm. Well, can I ask you, how did you get involved in music and in producing and executive producing? What was your journey into doing that?
Um, so I grew up in that 99 2000 era where everybody had a label.
Uh-huh.
And I just loved music. I grew up in a household. Me and my mom are like human jukeboxes. You can say a word and then we'll just take off singing it. So I just grew up with this love and this passion for music. And I used to read the liner notes. So I would buy a CD or a tape or whatever, and I just read the liner notes. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I want to know every job that everybody's doing. And then from there, I was like introduced to Clive Davis from a like, he was with Brandy, he was with Monica, he was with Whitney Houston. It's like, what is his job? Because he know everybody. And once I understood like what an A&R was and what he did as an executive producer and a producer, it's like, oh, I want to do that. And so I just learned more about it. And then I was going to go to school for music. And then my parents were like, no, what we're going to do is go to school for something you can get a real job in.
Yes. Yes, black parents. Go ahead.
Get a real job in. And I ended up going for psychology. In my psychology program, I went for behavior analysis, but I did a lot of my projects centered on music and how
Mm,
music would influence people and things like that.
of
So
course. Of course.
um that was like undergrad, and then I graduated and I got the like start checking the boxes. I got the real job, I got the apartment, I got this, and it was like this sucks. I am miserable. Whoever said I had to do this for the next 40 to 50 years of my life, y'all are crazy. Absolutely not. And I quit my job, and just God took me on this faith journey.
Yeah.
And one day in this faith journey, somebody reached out. Well, they didn't reach out. They made a post on social media and was like, does anybody want a job at Universal Music? Send me a message in my DM. So I was like, normally I ignore those things, but I was like, what you talking about? And she was like, send me your resume. I did. She sent it to the headhunter. The headhunter called me like that day or the next day, and was like, I just sent your interview over. They would like to set up an interview on Monday. This was like a Thursday, and I was getting ready to pack it up and go home. So I was in Nashville, and
Mm.
I was getting ready to just throw in the towel and say this isn't for me. And I was like, well, yeah, I can do an interview on Monday. So I had to stay that weekend. I went
Okay.
to that interview on Monday. I got that job that day. And so I had to unpack my car and stay. And it was just like a contract temp job. I did it like a year and some change, but it was in publishing. And I was doing copyrights and contracts. So I learned everything about how to
Wow.
get the money. And so I was like, now that I know how to get the money, I can help my people in my community, like learn how to set up their publishing, learn what a good deal looks like and everything. Cause I was just reading them all day, every
Mm-hmm.
day. And it was everybody from Prince's catalog to Mariah's catalog to the Beatles, like not the Beatles, but just all these different catalogs. And that's how I got into it. I ended up getting laid off from that position, but when
Huh?
COVID hit, I started doing these parties. Like I was on just whatever I could do to let people know I
Yeah.
existed and I had these resources. So I started doing live shows in Nashville, start working with artists, and honestly, that's how I got here today. It's a journey. So yeah.
It could have been a scam, like anybody want to work at Universal, but you took this you took this chance, right? Like you were kind of like, huh, I'm gonna give it a try. And it's, on this show before we've talked about this idea of jumping and leaping. And you just took this chance that could have been a jump, but it kind of seems like it's turned into this leap almost.
It was definitely a leap. And the only reason why I was like, what are you talking about? Is because I met this girl once before. So I
Mm-hmm.
felt like she was a legit source. And she was and still is today a legit source. But like you said, it could have been a scam because we meet people. First of all, I've met several scams where it's like, you seem legit. And then it's like, you ain't even doing nothing. You just, you've come to waste my time. So yeah, it's a lot of leaping involved, but I'm a very spiritual person, and I feel like if you have God, your ancestors, the angels, and everybody surround you, then like you're gonna be good, especially if you're doing it with good intention.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how has been able to walk with you in this journey? So we talked about mentorship
Mhm.
and, people being healed to be able to be a mentor, which I absolutely agree with. It's almost like having as like in this elder role. Who has been your mentor in this journey of being a producer?
Honestly, I've had to look at people from a distance. Like I've
Mm,
never really had a true come alongside me. Like I've had some people come alongside me that just weren't a good fit, or I felt like they were being manipulative or
yeah.
trying to take advantage. And I can't discredit the things that they did teach me in the process.
Hmm.
But to say that I've had a mentor, say like I've had to study Clive Davis from afar. So I've had to look at Brandy and I've had to look at Monica and I've had to look at Whitney and see where their careers are similar, where they're different, different paths they went down, and things like that. Um, I know we have very much so canceled Diddy, but like even Diddy's somebody that I had to look at from afar and say like he knows how to pick a hit song, especially in that peak Bad Boy era.
Yeah.
What are the similarities here? What's going on from a production standpoint to make these things happen? Jay-Z's another person, and there's not a lot of women because there aren't, Diddy was able to dance in a video and make himself present.
Yeah.
Clive Davis was just in the industry for years, some of it the luxury of being a white man, and then he
Yeah.
works in black music, so you see him in the magazines and things like that. It was a little later where like your Sylvia Rones came into play, and I understood more of the impact that Missy Elliott had in
Yeah.
production, and not just, she didn't just write the song and things like that, but she was speaking into the production. So it's all been just at a distance,
Yeah.
where I've had to be a student and watch every move these people were making.
Yeah. If you were able to have a one-on-one mentorship with somebody, like somebody came to your house or your studio to be like, come on, Ashley, let me show you how I do X, Y, and Z, whatever that may be, who would you pick to be in that mentorship role for you?
Right now, probably Missy Elliott.
Mm,
Missy
mm-hmm.
Elliott, if I had to pick one, because she is a woman in the industry and she does a lot hands on with the music. And then if she wasn't available just recently, I would say Jermaine Dupri, because he's from the South.
Yeah.
He does not get the respect a lot of times that he deserves, especially for the R&B soundtrack he gave us, for that R&B hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
Southern R&B and hip hop. I think Diddy did it with Mary and everything for the North, but Jermaine Dupri gave us some down south staples and classics. Um,
Yeah.
so I'd say if Missy wasn't available, then Jermaine Dupri.
Right, you'll put one and two on the
Yeah.
on the speed dial. Yeah, yeah, I think with Jermaine Dupri, it's so interesting because he was so young, and I don't think we realize how young he was and the amount of hustle he had to have. He had connections through his father, but for somebody to be like early 20s to do the
Yeah.
work that he did is fascinating to me. So you're absolutely right. I don't think he gets the credit either. And I don't think women get the credit. What kind of music do you often produce?
Um, Mostly R&B, but
Okay.
it's I don't even want to say it's experimental. I call it soul food. So we're
Mm,
taking it's hip hop. We're taking all of the different genres and we are bending them sometimes. Sometimes it's a very pure sound, but you might hear different elements from different producers. So we might go in and say, okay, let's make this Motown type song sound like Terry and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis produced it. So what does that sound? If they were in Motown with all of the instruments that they had in the 80s, but they were doing Baby Love, what does that sound like? Um,
wow, that is something.
and then my homeboy is the producer that composes, and he might look at me like I'm crazy and say, I don't know, cuz. And then he'll come back with something, and it's like, no, but you did it. So,
Yeah.
but it's mostly just pure R&B. Like I said, I just call it soul food, something that makes you feel like home.
Mm.
When you hear it, that just kind of sticks to your ribs. Whitney Houston calls it legacy music,
Ah, yes,
where it's
yeah,
like this isn't just to be digested for today, but there's also meaning. So how do you put a great album together to tell a story?
hmm,
How do you use the music to heal? So that's why I'm reading that book, Healing Through Music, and just understanding like music from a spiritual
yeah.
um, level and things like that. So yeah.
Well, and you have that psychology background, which is touching my soul, right? Like,
Mhm.
so you're able to understand even the behaviors behind music and how it can seep into our consciousness and what we want it to do when it gets there. Because I think, even with, I was born in 82. So I came up during this, not the beginning of hip hop, close, but it's like this push. Like hip
Yeah.
hop was in the mainstream
Hmm.
when I was like a kid. And I can remember specifically this talk about bitches and hoes. Like my brother he's 5 years older, huge hip hop fan. And he loved Too Short when we were kids, which I'm like, that's not appropriate, but whatever. He loved Too Short. He would get the tapes. My mom would tear the tapes up. She would find them. He would get a new one, that sort of thing. But I can remember specifically the language of, bitches and hoes, and it was degrading. That's what my mom would say. It was degrading to women, blah, 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 blah. And then you would hear the defense of, how can you listen to that as a woman? And then people be like, well, I'm not a bitch or a hoe, so I can listen to this. But I'm thinking over time, when you get older and you start to recognize your own womanhood or your own humanity, you kind of start to think like, I can't believe I was actually listening to this. And if it has like kind of like been an architect of how you see yourself. And I'm wondering if a lot of black women have seen themselves as being objectified by these black men that you hold so dear, even in entertainment, and how black men do treat black women based off of hip hop. Do you see a correlation there?
See a correlation in like how women view themselves along with how men present it. Is that
Yes, yes, yes.
I would say there is, but I think it's because of the separation of, I guess you're a psychology, the shadow self versus this like light self.
Yes, yes, yes.
Like some of this is a religious doing where it's like the only reason why we're able to call people a hoe is because we've demonized the sex for women. And if you enjoy sex, if you like sex, if you have multiple sex partners, you are unworthy to be loved, you are
Yeah.
unworthy to do all of these things. And in religion, specifically Christianity, because most of us grew up in the South and in some type of Christian household,
Hmm,
it's
hmm.
because of these things there a man comes and saves you and heals you from these things.
Yeah.
And why would so if that's what we're taught in church, that because you enjoy sex, because you like sex, you are wrong, you are evil, you are the devil, these things,
Hmm.
it's a lot easier for that misogyny to continue and say, well, you a bitch, you a hoe, you this. Why? Because the pastor said you like he didn't explicitly say it like that, but he might as well he said it more eloquently. And my thing is
Yes.
like just because you say it with fancy words don't mean it's not said. Like I, you know,
Exactly.
but that's just me. I'm just a very direct person. It's like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're saying it, but I think it's that. So it makes it easier for those men to justify that behavior. And then
Yeah.
you put imagery behind, well, what does a bitch, a slut, a hoe look like?
Mm.
Well, she looks like this. And now you're putting it on camera and it's dressed like this. But then on the flip side, when you have a love song, now you're finding the same video girl who you just called a bitch, a slut, and a hoe, and told her like I value you, you love you, I'm fiending for you, you the greatest thing. Like, and even though those are all codependent type
Yeah.
songs, the imagery is like, well, she was a bitch and now she's the love of his life. It doesn't make
Right. It doesn't add up.
yeah, it doesn't add up. So I do think there's a correlation, but it
Hmm.
just stems a lot deeper than just hip hop. And I think it would be unfair to try to say like I'm born in '85, so to be like, well, Generation X, they screwed up. Nah, this was going on way before hip hop.
Hmm.
Again, because they're storytellers, they
Yes.
took what they were seeing in their communities and they brought it out. And now we don't like what we see. And it's
Yeah.
like you can't take just the black excellence and just be like, we just want to see black excellence. No, you got to look at the unhealed parts too, so you can start healing. So we do start healing.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a correlation there, and there's just a whole lot of healing that everybody has to do in the process.
Everybody. Everybody needs to do it. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am curious about what is going to be your legacy for yourself as an individual and the work that you do.
Uh, this I'm very big on legacy, and I want to be known like as just what I do my work as like this new Motown.
Mm,
Motown came and restored dignity for black people at a time that we were told like we just weren't anything.
yeah.
And I think the 60s sometimes get overlooked as a renaissance period for us. Like we have the Harlem Renaissance, and we talk about the 60s and different things about it, but we don't look at it artistically as a Renaissance period for us. So I want to, one, be able to use my power to restore dignity for Black people.
Mm,
I want to be able to tell authentic stories. So, I can't, there are nuances. So, there are times to tell stories about abuse, but you don't have to um, pimp our trauma either. So,
yeah,
why are you telling this story about abuse? You
yeah.
know, if I'm honest, there have been times people have done some stuff to me and I'd be like, bitch. So, it's like, know, why are you saying this? Like, let's be intentional with what
Yeah.
we're saying and why we're saying, instead of just saying it because you heard somebody else say it, or because you heard Too Short say it, and Too Short said it because he heard a pimp say it, but that's because that's where he grew up in, and he needs to heal the fact that he was overexposed to
Hmm.
pimp and hoe culture at a young age.
You're right.
You know, and he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. I just don't have to,
Yeah.
listen to it. I don't have to go to the concert and everything, but I also think we have to be aware of those energies when we go to those places. Like, you hang around people like this, you are more prone to be treated in this way.
Mm,
And
mm,
if you're aware of that, then those consequences are a little bit different when you're aware of, like, I don't need to go over there and hang with them because everybody that they see that has butts and breasts is a bitch. And so there's
right.
a low chance that they're going to respect me in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you and the work that you do, and I really look forward to following your career because we're in the same group. We're in a music group, and when I was like, I need to talk to a rapper and a producer, and because I want to do like this little series on how music, how hip hop, specifically R&B, has really altered the way that sometimes we behave as people and how we see ourselves, because like you said, music is very powerful, and it came like in the 60s. There was this revolution of, we are Black people, we are proud, we are these things, and then hip hop came for like, we're in this era where we're rebelling against the system, that sort of thing. We're not going to take it anymore. And so there are all these different facets to it. And so I am completely honored that you came on the show when you didn't even know me. You're like, all right, girl, like, I love hip hop. I'll talk about it. And so I'm so happy that you came. But I'm also looking forward to following your work and all the things that you do, because we do need positive energy in hip hop and R&B, and we also need a change. We need it to evolve, and you're one of those change makers. And so this is exciting for me, and I hope that you are equally as excited.
No, I love the conversation. So when you told me what the topic was, I was like, oh, even better. Like, if it was just like, let's just talk about like some soft hip hop type stuff, I might have would have been like, I don't know. But like, to really get to what I'm passionate about is
Yes.
healing through music, and really just Black people. And again, the restoring that honor and dignity, like, and being just a full,
Mm,
and the dark side and the light side to it,
yeah.
because I have to love Sexy Red in order to love myself.
Yes.
Like, do I agree with her behavior? No. There is
Yeah.
still a freedom that she expresses as Black
Yes.
women that we've been told not to express. And it's like, when you keep a bird or you keep an animal caged up like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you finally let them out, you don't know how they gonna act. And
No,
it's
you
like,
don't.
that healing, like, that is a part of the healing process that she has to go through. Like, she's gonna make her mistakes. I pray that she has a story to tell at the end of it, just like the men. I feel like the women deserve to make
Yeah.
their mistakes and become a Bun B and have Trill Burgers. Like, he was not always Trill Burgers Bun B.
No.
Jay-Z was not always Tiffany and Company Jay-Z.
Right.
Nas was not always Ring Doorbell Nas. Like, these guys have a story. They made their
Yeah.
mistakes. and women have a right to make their mistakes and tell their stories, and it's not going to look like the men because we're just different.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely honored to even be here and to have these conversations.
Yeah.
I love having these conversations.
Oh, I loved having you here. And, this is like one of my shorter episodes because we're on a time crunch. But I feel like we were able to get a lot in during this time. And I look forward to having you back because I feel like there's so much more to explore, even within every single question that was asked. We were just kind of like, let's get it out. It is daylight savings time, and we didn't realize that we didn't have as much time. Like that's how I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But yes, let's meet up again and let's keep talking about this. I would love to.
I would love to. Anytime you want to have this conversation, just
Yeah.
let me know. I will try to make more time on my calendar. But I say in the marketing world, don't give it to them all at once, anyways. Make them come back.
Yes, yes. I need to have you on the marketing team because you be reading contracts and stuff. I need to. I'm gonna have to.
I've learned too many lessons watching too many people. I told you I've had to study these people, so it's like, oh, so that's what you did in your damn life? It's like, I don't need to do that.
Oh, well, I love that you do that because we have seen, as you said, we have seen over and over and over again, Black people specifically being taken advantage of for their art, and just being drug. And I'm like, how did you sell all TLC? How do y'all sell all of these things, have all this exposure and make nothing? So I am really excited that you're on that side of the because you love Black people and you want this honor, and I love it. So come back. I would love to have you.
I would love to come back.
Okay. Enjoy your Sunday, and your daylight savings time.
Thank you. You too. Again, thanks for having me.
Of
And thanks
course.
for everyone who listened to me.
Yeah, of course.
That you've provided. And I look forward to coming back.
Okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.